Hi, it's Ivy Slater. Thank you for joining me today on Slater Success Live. And Happy New Year for those of you who are this first time joining us this year. Happy, healthy, and prosperous 2021. I want to share a friend, a business colleague, somebody who I admire incredibly, who we were talking back in the fall. I was like, I need you on Slater Success Live in January to talk about business, talk about setting up the year for the success. Tim Van Mieghem is the partner at the ProAction Group. Okay, it's an operation consulting firm which he co-founded in 1995. Tim has 30 plus years, kind of like myself, of experience helping middle market companies identify, qualify, quantify, and mine value. Ready? He widely recognized for his expertise in supply chain functions and as the author of a book called Implementing Supplier Partnerships. He presents at national as well as local conferences and has written and created numerous articles on value creation, sourcing, logistics. In addition, he has his firm's proprietary 9-box inventory and pricing tool, which he has helped countless companies optimize their inventory levels and improve their pricing practices. He is an incredible resource for PE companies and I believe venture capital, but we're going to talk to Tim about that. Tim, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Ivy. Very glad to be here.
And for those people who are scrolling through, give us a stop, give us a listen, ask a question to Tim of myself, give us a comment when something resonates. We are going to be circling back. Both Tim and I are regularly on LinkedIn because this is where we converse sometimes, and seeing your comments. So it's okay if you don't catch it live, go back. Even if you are on YouTube or Facebook, feel free, go back, check it out. So Tim, let's start practically. I gave a highlight of your 30 plus years. Just share a little bit, what you did that then was the catalyst to start ProAction Group.
Sure. Thank you for asking and letting me go there because it's kind of fun. I'm actually an accountant, and I did one audit back at Arthur Andersen in 1987, and they had an operational consulting group, and I'm like, that's what I want to do. And I never looked back. I went from watching the clock to not caring if it was Saturday or Monday. It was so much more interesting to actually help the companies, improve how they serve their customers, their employees, and their shareholders. And the accounting piece was such a great foundation. And in 95, there was a few things that kind of led to the desire to start ProAction with my colleagues, with my partners. The first one, I'll be honest, we were 30 and we had the bug. We wanted to be on our own and live our lives and grow the business the way we saw it. And that was certainly part of it.
And I will say when you're young, you have
Yes.
a stronger, how am I going to say this? We are more willing to take risks.
Yes.
You have less attached to risk taking. When you're young, you're hungry, and you're like, if not now, when? So I agree with that. Okay, keep going.
And I think we were less aware of the level of risk and how crazy it was that it worked and it was great.
So true.
But thank God we did. Yeah. So, and another part was our passion for all four of us. What was really defining characteristic for us at ProAction was that we wanted to actually help companies change, to actually start doing something different that drove different results and different experiences for people. We always have to start with the study up front to understand, to have clarity on what should be done, what's helpful, but that's not an accomplishment. The accomplishment comes when you actually, support a team through the process of actually, doing something different that's creating a different result.
So as you've scaled ProAction Group, as many of us do 30 some odd years in business, there's a variety of different iterations.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely true. the foundation of results-based work
Mhm.
has stayed throughout, and our evolution has come in a couple forms. One that was directly related to our ability to do that was a shift that we made a couple years in from hiring young, smart people and teaching them to consult to bringing in experienced subject matter experts who have lived the work. They've lived they've run the departments or the companies that related to what we were consulting in. And it radically changed our ability to be practical and help them change, and do it in an efficient timeline. That was a life changing. That was a life changing decision. And it's funny because when we started ProAction, even though I was 30, I was one of the older people in the company. And now 27 years later, I'm just about to the average age of our company today, and loving it.
Well, I think it's very true. When you're young, capital is something when you're starting a company is difficult to come by,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So you're very often many things when we start with bootstrapping, or we have this much money of investing.
Right.
And you look at somebody who's bringing 30 plus years of experience of that kind of hefty salary.
Yes.
That is challenging, right? Until you can see where you can grow based on that knowledge and how you can value that and how leverage and how that makes you so much more money.
Very true. Very true. Another kind of inflection point for us was I remember it was 2002, and myself and my other three partners took a retreat weekend, and we're talking about where did we want ProAction to go, and that was when we decided to focus on private equity. And there's a couple of good reasons for it. One was we wanted to have a niche. And in an operational consulting, the model is you go in and understand first. You never tear down a fence till you know why it was put up. So we need to go in and understand it. And then you design and implement the solution with the team, which didn't lend itself to a focus. We couldn't just be a lean house or a supply chain house, because very few problems are relate to one discipline within the company. They're almost always integrated. We thought about focusing on an industry, but even at that time, we had learned that our cross-textual experience was highly valuable. We found there are industries that have blind spots. For example, one thing that I found with a lot of food companies and machine shops, we have a lot of clients that are machine shops where you can eat off the floor. They have such control, such good sanitation. And we also have food clients where you can literally eat off the floor. I'm being a little bit of a joke. I'm saying a little bit of a joke here, because there's food on the floor, because they have so much scrap, and the approach to quality in some food companies, what we found is, hey, you know what, scrap is like 7 or 8%, that's okay. Other industries, you go in, and if it's 0.001, they're calling a meeting. We got to fix this. And so we loved being able to take the best of different industries to the next industry. And private equity ended up being a great focus for us, because it allowed us to use the best of our skills and experiences across multiple industries, and bring it to bear in a way that was unique and had its own, learnings. There are things that you have to learn to do well when you work with private equity.
And it's important when you're working with private equity, they want their companies in top-notch shape at all times. So if it behooves them, and they do invest in making sure they have the people, not just in the infrastructure, but the people coming in to helping and supporting all those things. So when opportunity is presented, they are ready to jump on it.
Absolutely true. especially I can speak mostly for the private equity firms that we work with, recognize that they're transforming the company. Yeah. Many times the founder that's still involved with the company, is the chief performer in their company. They invented, they like to invent the next thing. They're great at running the operation. They know how to sell it. They've got all the customer relationships. And for a company to break out of that founder-driven phase, the founder has to transform from being the chief performer to a developer of leaders. And that is a traumatic shift.
I love how you use the word for traumatic, because I believe it's true.
I've thought about the word a lot, and I agree with you. I think it's the right word because it is a good thing. They're evolving and they're growing, but it's so counterintuitive. Oftentimes they start the company from nothing, and their sheer willpower, attention to detail, and being involved in everything is what led to their success.
And then it shifts to letting go, which is very challenging for somebody who started a company. Letting go, and then developing the leadership that will handle each department as it's scaling and growing. And then here's the other word you said, trust. Develop them and then trust them.
Amen.
Yep, and you want when you're creating this executive team, or the leadership team, as we refer, and we go in and work with them, is you need people who are working, who have the vision of the company, taking it forward, right? So it's no longer just the founder. It's everybody who sees the vision of the company. It's everybody who is discussing what is working, who's collaborating and working together. And I think that's a huge transformation for a founder.
It is. And the fun part we get to play in that, Ivy, is because we focus on operations, a lot of the improvements that we find and can clarify, show that it's really there and a good opportunity, often are things that don't require, like, you don't have to implement a new ERP system that takes 2 years, or build a new factory, or buy a new line. We're going to change how we schedule. We're going to change how we track. We're going to communicate what success looks like to the people in every single job.
Yeah.
Right. And we're going to do some re-engineering of processes, which takes real thought. It takes math and time studies and all this good stuff. But in a month, you see change that has an impact. And people who, it's always fun and interesting to watch the evolution of people who are used to working where they're following, more following orders, or they're using their personal judgment every day to expedite orders, to get things out the door. It's, every day is like Christmas morning. It's always different, and you don't know what you're going to get, to actually being able to design a system that works. It takes out a lot of things that you used to do that don't actually add value, but it was required by the old system, and they flourish. So many people, they flourish, they love it, they take ownership, they've now designed, they've been part of this new design, and it's up to them, and people rely on them, and people, you see people blossom. And then there are also other people who are very comfortable, like, hey, I just want you to tell me what to do, I'm going to do that. And they get to be put into positions where that's more of a feature.
And I think there's a high value as people collaborate and they develop systems together. There's so much more buy-in for implementation, for follow-up, for follow-through. And, it always takes us in developing new systems, a learning curve to actually implement that.
Yes.
And when you're working as a group, that's when you put support mechanisms in place. And I'll say that checks and balance system to retrain ourselves. And here, here's a simple idea, viewers and listeners, is we do the Slater Success Live show on a platform called StreamYard. Okay. It took me a while to learn StreamYard, right? I kept going back to my team. Am I doing this right? Can somebody check this? Have I put this in correctly? Right? Every time we learn something new, it does take time. And when you have that support and everybody's learning together and you're encouraging each other as well as reinforcing each other, is a great gift.
Absolutely.
So you're hunkered in the PE space, you're hunkered in manufacturing.
Yes, distribution and some business services too, but industrials is where we focus.
Industrials. So where, is there still 4 partners?
No. So over time it has evolved. I have one other partner. His name is Doug Blanchard, and we are the dynamic duo now with the rest of our leadership team.
So when you're dealing, and if I may, I want to go here a little bit because there's a lot of people who have partnerships out there. And sometimes,
Yes.
we don't talk to that many companies, and maybe it's something we'll highlight more this year, that when we look at partnerships, how to highlight different partners. How do you and Doug, looked at the dividing and conquering concept versus the coming together and doing together concept?
Yep. So first, I will bring up one big word, which is gratitude. And I'm speaking for myself in this one. I'm so grateful to have my partner. And because we really do fill in each other's, weaknesses and strengths. I am passionate about the idea of what we do. I love to go and do the analysis and field work. I love to have conversations like this. I love to talk to private equity firms, but Doug he's run significant companies. At one point, he had a $500 million company with 5,000 people reporting to him, and now he is helping me develop. Like we talked about that evolution of a leader. I'm going through that right now. I am in the middle of that. We're developing our own succession plan. And so one is, it's one truly finding a partner that complements, where you complement each other. You don't want 2 of the same people. The other thing I'll say that's probably, as crazy as this might sound, that's way more important than that, is that you have partners that share values. We did this about 6 or 7 years ago now. It's crazy. But we defined our core values, not aspirational, not who do we want to be, but just sat down and said, who are we? And that helped us, one, it reaffirmed that we have the same values. And what that means is you end up having each other's back. If Doug's involved in something and I'm not, or if it's the other way around, we're going to have the same outcome. We're going to treat people the same way. We have the same heart. We have the same vision, the same goal. And that solves so many things. And I think another piece that goes with it is, for us to know about our core values being the same and to realize that we have complementary skills, communication is a critical part. And you have to trust each other enough to stand up and push back and challenge and have the arguments and, throw pens and pencils at each other and all that good stuff. It's been a great experience for me. It's really, and I think those are the things that are fundamental to it working.
So interesting you say that. So I do not have a partner in Slater Success, but for many, many years in my printing company, I had an unofficial partner is the only way I could say it. He had his business, I had mine. We ran them in tandem. So we had the same staff. We just had different brand names on the door. I knew all of his clients. He knew all my clients. And we still talk several mornings a week. And so this morning was the 7:30 That might have been 8 o'clock. I think I worked out this morning. Call, like my first call of the day is like we touch base. And years ago, people say, how did you guys do it? How did you do it? How'd you do it? And how'd you do it for so long? Because over a dozen years. And he is still the person I will go to brainstorm things.
Yep.
But our values were so aligned. That when one of us, I'll tell you, in the early years when I went on vacation, he's like, well, if it comes to a press decision, a middle of the night decision, Ivy, I don't want to call you. I don't want to bother you on vacation. I was like, whatever you decide, I trust.
Yes.
And this could be 10,000, 20,000, didn't matter. I was like, no, I trust your decision. And then it was the reverse. And it was, I knew I trusted him. And then he trusted me. When he was away with his family or he was off doing something else, I had to make a tough call on his behalf. There was innate trust because it's exactly what you're saying. Our values were 100% alignment. It was family first, the best result for the customer at this moment. Number 1 and 2, honesty, integrity, and respect.
Yes.
So I have to ask, when we were talking, I know you recently moved. So you moved before the holidays when we were talking.
Yes.
How have you, in moving and shaking things, and all the things going on, I have to say, you did something, you reverse engineered something, and I'm going to ask you to share it. Because I think it's brilliant.
Yes. I got the idea from my nephew and his fiance. They've been to a new neighborhood, and I believe it's a Japanese custom that when you move into a neighborhood, you give gifts to your neighbors instead of the other way around. The housewarming gift, neighborhood warming gift, I guess. And so, I did. I went out and picked out some nice basket, and I wrote a card out in case they weren't home when I went over with my phone number and, how to spell my name and all that, just the basic details. And 3 of the 4 people, when I went, invited me in. With one family, I got to taste some delicious ethnic Indian foods. The next guy went to his house and he had some double stuffed and coated Oreo cookies that we got to share with some coffee. And my other neighbor was having a birthday party for his daughter and had 20 people at his house. And he's like, come on over. So it was a wild experience and so rewarding. It was just fantastic.
So what for the 2 of us who built businesses, been in sales a long time, what do we learn from that? I mean, where's the business lesson? Because my mind's going a mile a minute there, but I'm curious to see what's coming up for you.
Yeah, there's a couple of thoughts that come to mind. And one of them is, the very basic idea of getting out of your comfort zone. Even though, like you said, I started a business, I've been in sales forever, but going to someone's house, just knocking on the door, especially in this day and age where, you normally call before you go somewhere. Right. It was cold that day too. So, and you know what? People are just people, and it was great. And there was nothing more than just wanting to get to know each other and listening and trying. And that was a great start. And the other thing that was interesting that that oftentimes when you start a process of doing favors, it creates a flow in a relationship. And it's interesting. I thought about this. I hope you don't mind. But I saw this replay of a Bible. A lot of people have heard the story of when Jesus met the woman at the the woman at the well. And when he met her, he was sitting next to the well and he asked her to give him a drink. Like, he's 2 feet away. He could have done it, but it was this idea of doing favor to create this. Now we have this flow where I do a favor, then they want to do one back, and we do it, and it creates a conversation, not, in a different way. It creates almost like a flow, and I think that's just a good basic human thing. Do nice things. Don't be afraid to ask for help too. I think you just posted that today, right? Ask for help. And people love to give the help. They love to be helpful. So that's what I took from it. I'm so glad I tried it, and it was a lot of fun and a good lesson for me.
I see a summer block party you're going to be originating.
Absolutely. Yes.
Anybody in the outside Chicago area, stay tuned.
Right.
So what do you foresee in 23? What is exciting to you about business coming forward this year?
Yes. So I think one, you're right. There's going to be volatility. Every conversation I have, the one common ingredient, some people think there'll be a recession. There won't be. There's a ton of capital available, but the debt availability of debt is going down. We know that there's going to be change. We're going to run into things that we have to face. And for us, it presents a great opportunity because it allows us to, work with our clients on how do we address this change and, take something that could be negative and make it a positive. And that's the one consistent thing in life, is that that's always the case. And so probably the word is, it's up in the air. There's a lot of volatility, and it's another great opportunity to test our muscles and to work with our clients as they continue to figure out how to scale, how to be stable, even in a crazy environment. That's a lesson there is, we know it's going to be crazy, but companies, we can be stable. We aren't subject to the market forces. We can do well and thrive even in these crazy times. You have to adjust, and sometimes those adjustments are painful, but it's a challenge. It's a hill to climb.
Well, one of the things I truly in the heart of hearts believe is every challenge presents opportunity. And some of the greatest businesses were birthed, born, and expanded during softer economies, creating more opportunity in other areas. Yes. So I always say, I don't put I try not to put negative words out there as best as possible. I really look at putting things out in a positive manner. And so one of the things I say, okay, where's opportunity sitting for the first quarter? Where's opportunity? Mm-hmm. What are we going to be looking for from the first quarter to create further opportunity in the second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter? And as opposed to many people, when they hear the words being bandied about like recession or problems or this, that, and the other thing, is they go into a state of panic. And the second we go into panic, we stop having the ability to connect to opportunity, because all we're doing is looking for problems. Yep. So I'll always say, take a breath, see where opportunity is presenting, and then
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. If we're panicked, we're freeze, flight, or fight, and those are not healthy options.
So as we close out the show, how can our listeners and viewers connect with you, reach out to you, learn more from you?
Sure. Well, certainly our website at proactiongroup.com, LinkedIn, we've got a nice growing set of followers there. And an exciting thing is later this summer, I will be launching my next book, which I'm super excited about, which will go into a lot more depth than a lot of the things we just talked about today. But it largely speaking, how do you find those opportunities that can help your company develop and evolve?
I love it. And listeners, Tim and I are going to continue to take a look at the feeds in the various platforms, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, not in any specific order. So do not panic of what I said first, second, or third. Let us know, what was the biggest takeaway from listening to us today, from our conversation? You know, many people say, oh, you interview. I think we just have good conversations. Let us know what you think. If you have questions, definitely tag us and we are going to respond to you. And reach out to Tim at the ProAction Group. He is brilliant. Thank you for joining me today.
Such a pleasure, Ivy. Thank you for having me.
And hang out in that green room. Hold on. LinkedIn Live, thank you so much. Facebook and YouTube, thanks for joining us here today. Remember to reach out. What questions? Let me know. Here's my ask for 2023. Who would you like to see me interview and why? That doesn't mean like, hey, interview me. It means, hey, I want to learn more from. And if we can learn more from you, reach out. We're always looking for, maybe we'll do some in the private equity space where Tim and I were just talking about in venture capital space. Lean in and let me know, what do you want to learn this year? Stay tuned for our LinkedIn Lives in February and March for Q1. See you soon and see you next time.